Good morning. This is part 2 of our June soul shift and sabbatical integration and debrief. And I wanted to come back to some of the questions this morning that I didn't have a chance to answer yesterday, as I do. And just want to remind you, this is the opportunity to get your questions answered, you guys. So please, next month. And the post is always pinned. If you don't know where it is, comment and say, hey, where's that question post, so I can add my question, because one of the things that I think I've done well in teaching this year is make opportunities for you guys to ask questions and get answers. And I like to feel that that's very thorough, that if you do have an open question, that it does get seen by me. I mean, I see most of what happens in the group, but I miss things occasionally. And so anyway, just know that this is your venue next month. Just make sure your questions are there. The date for our debrief is always on your schedule. So just make sure you ask your questions, I would say at least 48 hours before. And then they'll be added into the document for me. And then as the team, just takes that and prints that for me. And then I'm able to respond to all of your questions. So I think I got to most of the questions about follow through. We talked about root chakra, creative ebb and flow. I kind of left off with Tasha Bowman's question. She said she struggles with guilt and self-doubt, struggles with caring too much about what others think and say, being in her own skin sometimes around people that she doesn't care for necessarily, struggles with anxiety, feeling small and like she doesn't matter. And she was saying that it really resonated with her the other day when I spoke about how, she says, how you just can't go on and do some things anymore because it doesn't vibrate well with you. And so part of what I want to share in response to that question for Tasha is really thinking about where some of these feelings are coming from. You know, sometimes we struggle with issues of worthiness, and that feeling, that struggle can have anchors in early childhood. And that's kind of what's coming up for me in terms of thinking through a response to your question. And I think the feeling small thing sometimes is also anchored in some of those early childhood relationships. And so it's about going back and really trying to get underneath why it is. You know, ask yourself, why do I feel this way? And, you know, I was talking to you guys the other day about pressure testing. And I think one of the things you have to do is pressure test your answers. You know, if you say, well, I struggle with self-doubt because when I was little, my parents told me X, Y, and Z. You have to stop and ask yourself, but is that true? But is that true? Is that accurate, right? I like to use accurate rather than true because true has connotations, almost like the word good. You know what I mean? But is it accurate? Like, is that accurate for you? You have to start to write a new story, Tasha. And this was the big, I think, takeaway for a lot of us from the integration gathering yesterday. And then on top of that, Cosmic Comfort, which I think you should watch it too, because this came up, you know, this whole thing about really making sure that you're telling an accurate story. And you don't have to live in your old stories. You know what I mean? Like feeling small and like you don't matter, that feels like a very old story to me for you, Tasha. Like I'd really like to know what your new story is. And your new story can begin today. And it's not about like pretending the past didn't happen or, you know, like it's just about recognizing that. And I wonder sometimes if you guys can visualize it this way, but how many cells there are in your body, and they're constantly renewing themselves. Every 7 years you get, you know, new skin, new hair, new, like everything, your body changes. We go through these cycles. Our whole life is based on these rhythms. And yet we somehow think that we are the same person that we were in 1987, that we were in 1999, that we were in 2011, that we were in 2018. And I think, you know, the circumstances change, and I think it's really important to recognize that and then align yourself to whatever the new story is so that you can live in a reality that's more accurate. And Tara Winters was saying, my struggle in creativity is procrastination. We talked a lot about that because procrastination is root chakra. It's root chakra. And also it's the ease effort thing. When you're not in your body and you're trying to do things that you perceive as hard, you're going to procrastinate. You got to get in your body and you got to find a way to bring ease to what is effort-based in your life. Millie was asking, can we work on silencing the inner critic or the imposter syndrome, on finding the roots of that self-flagellation? An interesting term, right? She said, I work with a lot of authors and all of them struggle with the same thing. Who am I to think that my words have value, or this would be interesting to people. And she said, many aspiring writers and artists do this. And she said, I feel by getting rid of these blocks, we'll all be better to create what we desire. Remember my mantra, which is everybody wants to hear what I have to say. Everybody is open to reading my words, which is a very different way of looking at the world versus nobody wants this, nobody wants me, and nobody's interested in what I'm doing. And it's not my ego saying people want to read what I have to share. It's my spirit saying, I think I'm here to do this thing. And so if I'm here to do it, doesn't it necessarily follow in a logical way that there has to be somebody who wants it? And if I vibrate in a way that attracts the people who are here to receive what I have to offer, that's all I have to do. And so I have to figure out how to get to that vibration. It's like a lily pad, And I'm here to just kind of inspire you, to show you the way, and to keep reminding you. Like, one of the reasons I try to be live with you guys, if not every day, every other day, right, in some capacity. And the reason I do that is constant touch points, reminders. It's like I have teachers, and I will say that my learning experience is the opposite. I see my teachers at best once a month, and sometimes it's 3 months in between times that I work with them. And that's a long time to go and to not have a touch point with somebody I'm trying to learn from. And so you guys get a lot more contact, which from where I sit in the work that we're trying to do is really, really important. So I just thought I would share that with you. Stephanie Kolb said, I struggle with the willingness to try because I'm afraid what I do won't be good enough. So much fear to fail there. Myri said, my mom was an artist, so I grew up hearing a lot of negative talk about others' artistic abilities. Isn't that interesting? So now we're learning the lineage piece of this. I internalized that, so I have the habit of comparing myself to everyone else and thinking I'm not as good, so why try? I've always struggled with my sacral chakra in general, right? And she said, I enjoy crafting once I get going. It's just getting started and struggling with what I'm actually going to do that isn't something everybody else has already done. But here's the thing, you guys. Nobody's going to do it the way you're going to do it. I mean, it's funny because, I've had SG for 8 years and I'm one of the originals, right? Like, there were not a lot of gem shops when I started, and I was the only one with my little rose and white sage bundles on Etsy. Like, it was novel what I was doing when I started. And now it's like, I always joke, like, my mom could have a crystal shop, right? Like, she would never, but I mean, she could if she wanted to. In 10 minutes, she could pop up a shop, right? And I used to think, God, I mean, is that what's going to happen to me if like every single person on the planet is a crystal shop? And what I realized is they're not me. Can they sell a crystal? Sure. Can they teach? Can they, is the energy the same? You know what I mean? Do they know where their stones are coming from? Like, is there ceremony to support the work with those layers? No, they don't bring that. So you have to look around and say, they're not you. So do what somebody else is doing. Who cares? It isn't going to be what they're doing by definition, because you share nothing in common with them other than maybe the fact that you're both painting on a canvas. You know what I mean? Other than that, it's not. And you don't have to work hard to be original, you guys. Like, I want to drill this home today. You do not have to work hard to be original. There's no one on this planet like you. There's no one. One day when you leave that space that you occupy, no one's gonna be able to fill it. You're beautiful and completely unique. Like, let that land with you for a second, because I think a lot of us feel like not unique. You look around, you think there's so many people on this planet, and like, what am I even doing here? You have to shift that mindset, and you're going to have to start shifting it and just leaning into believing it until you internalize it. That felt important for you guys. And so, Stephanie, it's of course going to be good enough. What if you couldn't fail, Stephanie Kolb? Like, what if that wasn't an actual option for you? The what if game, I always tell you this, the what if game that we're comfortable playing is what if I fail? The what if game that goes, what if you succeed? That's even scarier. Because if you succeed, then, ooh, you might have to keep doing it. Ooh, you might have to innovate. Ooh, you might have to work hard. And ooh, you might have to, okay. Really pressure test and see, are you afraid of succeeding? Because succeeding might mean that your life would change. I'll say my life changed a little bit, I think, with the growth of Sage Goddess, because I've had people come into my life and I thought that they wanted a relationship with me, but I think all they wanted was what I could do for them in hindsight. And I've gotten hurt over the last couple of years by that. So I've really learned to discern whether someone is coming to me because they want to be my friend, or they want to, or they're just trying to get what they can get. And there are people in my life like that. And I have made that mistake multiple times, because I'm not going to say I'm naive, but I'm vulnerable. Like, because I try to believe the best about people until they show me that I can't. And I've fallen for a little bit of that. Even in my personal life, like, oh, I thought she wanted to be my friend. Turns out she just wants crystals and she wants to say she's my friend, but she's not. It hurts. But listen, I mean, would I go back and not do it because of that? No. It just means I have to be more aware, and more accurate in my discernment of who's in my life and why they're there. And I'm getting better. I don't ever want to lose that childlike kind of trust in people. So I choose to be hurt, I guess. I think I consciously choose to be open to being hurt, because the alternative is just shutting myself off, and that's not living either. So ask yourself, how would my life change? How would your life change if you created this thing that your soul wants you to create, that you think, oh, it's not original, oh, it's not going to be great. Reminds me of you guys with the crafting, like, oh, I'm not going to be able to do that. And then you make this thing and it's fucking beautiful, right? And you surprise yourself. Wabi sabi, man. Casey Duggar. Virgo rising. You lift these restraints, Casey, by lifting the restraints. I mean, I think a lot of you think there's some like magic, I don't know, like person or like a little elf or something is going to come and whoop, the restraints are gone and now it's like clear sailing. And it's like, no, you're going to save you. Because you're going to start choosing to align to a different mindset that says, nobody else is me. And I do things differently than other people. And that's a good thing. I'm going to embrace what's unique about me. Because somewhere, someone in the world needs the uniqueness of you to be mirrored back to them. And Sarah Rose Brock said, I struggle with letting go of control and the desired result. I stifle my own creativity with expectations and being too in my thoughts. That's right, girl. So get the hell out of that head. You don't have control, so it shouldn't be too hard to let go of something you don't have. It sounds so simple, kind of, doesn't it? I stop myself sometimes and I'm like, do I really think I can control that? Like, what the hell am I doing right now? I can't control that. I'm going to try to just enjoy this ride. And Dave's funny because he'll say things to me like, he's like, how you just roll through this universe sometimes is like, I don't even know. And I'm like, dude. Because what's the alternative? To be like you and be like, well, I've already thought about the 10 different ways that this might not work out. And it's like, that's not a good way to live. And for me, Anyway, that's my Virgo. I can guarantee you that, honestly, it's funny because I really created Sage Goddess in a vacuum. Nobody knew when I created Sage Goddess. Dave didn't know for like the first 6 months because, like, honestly, I sold a couple crystals and then I bought more stuff on Etsy. Like, I used it as my mad money because we didn't have a lot of money. So if I sold some crystals, then I could go and buy whatever was on my favorites list on Etsy. So I didn't really say anything because I'm like, well, it's $50 or $20 or whatever. And so I turned around and bought a t-shirt it wasn't a big deal till it started to, grow a little bit more. And then I remember talking to him about it and saying, hey, I did this thing and, it's this thing. And then it kept growing. And he was like, honestly, I can promise you, if I had talked to him through the process of creating it, I wouldn't have created it. He would have been like, no, and this, and that's crazy. And why are you doing that? And what, people are going to buy crystals online? Like, if I had, you gotta be your own cheerleader and trust your spirit. My spirit was like, get those rocks on that website. And I was just like, okay. If I had Virgotized it and said, well, but I mean, who wants to buy crystals online? And who are you? Who are you? And why are they going to buy them from you? And Julie Olmstead, being able to let go and create. It doesn't have to be perfect. Acceptance of what I did create, being able to feel the joy and love from what I've created. That's right. And honestly, and I think the reason SG, I always use myself as an example, but it's just easier so that you can kind of see what I'm talking about. I only put stuff on my website that I really love. And so I think people tend to know that. Like, I don't sell stuff just to sell it. Like, I wouldn't do that. I have people bring stuff to me all the time. Will you sell this? Will you sell this? I mean, all day long, right? Because people now know who we are. And I'm like, no, and double no, and quadruple no, you know? If you love it, someone else will love it too. If you feel like it's effort and like you got to work on this and it's like you're procrastinating, nobody's going to love that. Because the work product of procrastination is not a product of love. It's a product of need. I need to get this done. Is that something somebody's going to want to buy or experience? Probably not. Versus me, where I'm like, holy shit, I got to make this thing. I got to make it now. I got to get out there. I don't know. I don't even know who this is for, but it's on my spirit and now it's there and good luck. And it's like, there's an energy to that and it's authentic. So what makes you feel like that? I know what makes me feel like that, but what makes you feel like that? Like, oh my God, I got to go do it. Whether it's a meal that you cook. And so it turns out you're supposed to have a food truck or doing meal prep for people, or it's the way that you take care of your patients, right? Maybe you need to be doing some, I don't know. I don't know what it is for each of you, right? So Melissa Cordova said, I find that my creativity flows eagerly, but seems to be more mental than physical. I can dream big, but I have a hard time bringing that into reality. Root chakra. If you're dreaming big, great. Your upper chakras are doing a good job. If you can't bring it into reality and manifest it, your lower chakras are blocked. Honestly, I think what I just said is probably worth your membership fees for the month. Because for some of you, doing some root chakra work is going to change your life. Because you don't feel safe. You feel afraid. You don't feel confident. You feel hesitant. You don't feel encouraged. You feel unsupported. And only you can fix those things. And all of those things are energetic. We talked quite a bit about this in Cosmic Comfort, by the way. Lynette Harris said, let me count the ways. I'm a writer, currently not writing. She has a beautiful blog, though, that she hasn't posted to in months. She has a piano she uses as furniture, not for music. Right? She was a muralist for 20 years until she had to get a real job. Lynette, there's a building that we're looking at to buy, and we're going to need somebody to paint a mural on it. So, anyway, she said she just feels so uninspired. This runs deep in her, whatever it is. It isn't fear, she says. I know. She checked that out fully, but something has me stuck, and I would like to get past this, get back to the things I loved and that made up so much of my life. It's a daily struggle, and I'm tired of spending so much energy not doing anything. I'm beginning to think it's a lack of sex, love, sensuality, since Athena, you mentioned that recently. Things are dull there too. All right, Lynette, so if it isn't fear, then yes, we look to the sacral chakra or the solar plexus. Your lower chakra, solar plexus, is your seat of power. Sacral chakra is your seat of creativity and procreativity, and the root chakra is your seat of safety, right? So for past safety, almost think of, do you guys know Maslow's hierarchy of needs? I used to teach it because I used to teach an intro to counseling class for graduate students as part of my doctoral studies. And we used to talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs and just how people evolve, how people become whole. And you have to work your way from the bottom up. And honestly, it echoes the chakras. It's really powerful. I'm convinced Maslow had read the Vedas, but I don't have proof. But Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and I'll just pull it up really quick. You can, if you search Maslow's hierarchy of needs on Google, I'm doing it right now with you or for you, just to kind of, although my internet's really shitty right now. You should be able to pull up, I don't think I can because of my internet situation, but you should be able to pull up an image of the hierarchy. Let me try one more thing. Come on interwebs. Anyway, we can talk more about that later. Maybe it's a bonus class on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Creativity ultimately rests in the sacral. And usually people who have a block there also have little interest in sex, or like don't even want to have an orgasm, or like it doesn't even really cross their mind a little bit. And this ebbs and flows through the changes of life, as my mom used to call it, right? The menopausal stage too. So cut yourself some slack there. I don't know where you are in that process, but we all go through it. I honestly think if you're doing energy work, menopause is a little bit easier. Just my 2 cents, because menopause tends to bring up a lot of the shadow, and we're doing shadow work. So we're already addressing some of the stuff that comes up at that stage, because menopause tends to align to the Chiron return, which is the revisitation of your deepest wound. And so women, I feel so bad for women who go through menopause and they're all alone and they don't know what's happening. And it's super scary. I mean, when your Chiron return happens and you are having to look back, it's like, have you solved your wound yet? Why? You know, it's like all these, it's a tough time. I think for you, Lynette, it might be really interesting to see what would happen if you increased sensuality in your life. Let's take sex off the table for a minute, but sensuality. Maybe it's getting massages, or honestly, one of my team members, Brooke, made me a waist chain. I don't know if you saw, I posted a picture of it. And it changed my whole vibration. As soon as I put that sexy little thing on, I was like, well, look at me, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, those little things. Sexuality doesn't have to mean, absolute union with a partner. It has to mean getting back in touch with what inspires you. Like for me, it can be textures of clothing or blankets. It can be makeup and massage. It can be music, can really turn me on sensually. Like subtle movement. For me, belly dance is one of the reasons I like to do that, is because it's highly sensual. It's also a good form of exercise. So I'm trying to give you other suggestions to inspire you to think outside the box, Lynette. Because I want to see you painting, and I want to see you playing your piano, and I want to see you. And like, what if you imagine that there was someone who was almost energetically asking you to create? Like, please, Lynette, bring through something that speaks to your soul. It can be small. Like, I guess I'm asking you. And maybe show it to me. Just something small, tiny. I'd like to see. Christy Ball-Hyman said, how do you learn where your creativity lies? You just dabble. We talked about this yesterday. Yes, you do. But you also have to listen. Ask your spirit guides, what am I here to create? What am I here to create? What am I here to show people? What am I here to do that only I can do? Turning fear into inspiration for Jessica Garcia. How to that? So Tina Cooper said, I used to be creative, especially during my wild days of drugs. Then I stopped, my brain fried, and it was really hard for me to write creatively and just create anything. I struggle with our crafting sessions because I feel such a lack of creativity, and I know I'm not as good as I used to be. All right, Tina, that feels like a story to me. And again, I'm not saying it's not true for you right now, but is it the story you want to inhabit today and tomorrow? Right? Your brain is capable of massive regeneration. So the story about, too much drugs and this and that, like, I had my fun too in my early years. I grew up in the 80s, and just all the bad things were available in plentiful supplies. So I enjoyed myself quite a bit. And honestly, sometimes it sounds funny, but the more I think about creativity, the less creative I am. It's almost like, it sounds funny, but like, do you really need your brain? Like, I mean, you do need your brain, but like, I want you to play a little bit, Tina. Maybe you are as good as you used to be. Maybe you're good in the way that you are today, and that reflects all of Tina's soul development, and the way that you would approach what you used to do today is so much deeper and more resonant with the frequency of your soul's deeper truth as you have moved through these stages of your life and come to a place where you can finally integrate the youthful you, right? The artist you, the wild child you, right? And Because I would love to see you invite that wild child you back in. It's funny, your guides are saying that there's been this like almost like a pushing away of that part of yourself, like a rejection of it. What if you invited her back in? She's not so scary. She's kind of fun, you know? And honor her a little bit. I bet you that might shift it for you, Tina Cooper. Lisa Worrell Marshall said, I used to be very creative. I painted, I beaded, I sewed, did different things, but I've lost my creativity. How do I get it back? I'm wondering if anything that I've shared so far, been with you for half an hour now. We had a good, hour yesterday. I'm wondering if anything is resonating with you, Lisa. Lisa Cohen said, I struggle with releasing, which I feel blocks my creativity. Rachel Fortunato said, I struggle with not letting things go and holding on to things. Straya Esperanza said, I know there's a path to writing for me. How do we lift the blocks that prevent the words from flowing? Thinking too much makes things hard. I think a lot of you have to invite the creativity back in, and you have to recognize, like I said yesterday, the process of letting things go is as simple as letting them go. The things you're holding on to don't want to be held on to as tightly as you're holding on to them. Like, I wonder if some of you realize that you are perpetuating some of this. And then ask yourself why. I mean, have the conversation. Why am I holding on to this? Like, what does this even mean for me right now? Is this mine? And then remember the meditation that we did with the boat, right? Down Sarasvati's river. Like, if you were to put some of that stuff that you're holding on to onto that boat and really let it float away from you a little bit. I'm telling you, I did that meditation with you guys. I put shit on that boat and I haven't even thought about it again since, which tells me I shouldn't have been thinking about it in the first place. If you didn't do that journey, please do it. And please do it. You know what I mean? It's one of the journeys that has had the most impact on me, I think, because it was such an eye-opener for me that even after all these years and holding the container and doing the work and stuff, I still hold on to shit that I shouldn't. Like, ding dong, we're human, man. Like, whoops. That's why my shaman that does ayahuasca with me, he always says that he has to spend the first hour with me and everybody else just scraping off the barnacles, just shit that's come in since the last time. Just scrape it off, scrape, which is true. And you're human. So, I mean, I come out of ceremony and I'm like, oh, I'm clean, I'm clear. And then 10 minutes later, right, there's a barnacle. Teresa Benfield said, I have a hard time having fun. I'm a workaholic and even my creative projects become work. I need to let my hair down in a healthy way. Christine said, do you feel that through creativity we can manifest? Absolutely, girl. Crystal Scarlett said, I'm so excited. I love to make things with my hands. I sew, make jewelry, craft, and wood burn. Oh, wood burning. She said, I love to sing and play guitar, but she has to get her chores done. Usually after chores, she's pooped. She has a lot of body pain with her fibro. She needs to rest a lot. Her hands get tired. She said, I want to wake up earlier and start my day with yoga. Okay, so do that. Do that. Something, just a gentle yoga, Don't, like, what I tend to do, I don't know if you do this, is I get a big idea and then I try to go full steam right away. Like, I'm going to do yoga. I'm going to do Bikram yoga. It's like, no. Baby steps, right? Something soft and gentle for 10 minutes. You should leave yourself wanting more. You shouldn't be like, I'm going to do this and now I'm going to do it. Like, start small, right? You can always do more. So Teresa Gray Benfield, I'm wondering what playing for you would look like. I'm a workaholic too. So I completely understand it. And my Venus is in Virgo, so I even see love as work sometimes. So I've had to reframe, you know what I mean? Amy Butcher said, I have so many creative ideas. My problem is getting the tools, and I'm not a salesman. My husband is disabled at the age of 26. Oh, poor baby. Now that my youngest son is 18, we lost $600 a month of his income. That makes things difficult financially. I believe what I have planned to create would make money. I need help to manifest money and tools and keep my creativity going. So that's tricky, because I have to say, when I was doing what I was doing, I didn't I would make $5 and then put $5 back in, and make $5 and put $5 back in, buy some supplies and stuff. So if it requires kind of an extensive outlay of cash, you could do some sort of crowdfunding if you wanted to do that. You could see if there's somebody in your family who would give you a loan for that too. And then I would also ask, like, what's the tiny edge of this that you could do right now that isn't too expensive? Is there a small piece that you could get started that would help support you for the rest of it? I still remember in the early days when SG was starting to grow, and I remember saying to Dave that I wanted something. It was a machine for something. And he was like, well, we are where we are. We can't invest in this. So if you want to get a machine for that, and I honestly don't remember what it was, but I wanted to get, I think it was a printer or something, different kind of printer. And he was like, if you want that, like, then you're going to have to buy it through sales, because we can't put any money into this. And Dave and I are very debt averse. We don't have a lot of debt. And I think that's been the secret to everything, because only now in hindsight, I'm so grateful, especially he's debt averse. So we've always been that couple, like, if we can't pay for it in cash, we don't get it. Which at some points has been kind of discouraging and depressing. But at the same time, I'm kind of glad that we didn't overextend ourselves. So I'm wondering how something in that might resonate with you. Like, is there a part of it that you can do that would make enough where that you could cover the next part of it and kind of like piece it together that way? Pamela Ann said, my question is about how to deal with critical critics. After I've created something, I struggle with putting it out there. People can be so harsh. I tend to take input seriously. How do you deal with haters that crap all over the work? Girl, you wouldn't want to spend a day in my world. Because for every 10 people who love what I do, there's usually one is like, that's shitty, or why do you do that, or you shouldn't, blah, My philosophy is kind of different. Like, I kind of feel like if I don't have some critics and some haters, I'm probably not making a big enough dent. You know what I mean? It's like, that's almost a sign that you've arrived. I'm going to tell you the honest truth. I don't care. I care about human beings. I don't care about trolly people who are just there to be haters, because, like, what are they doing, right, to try and make this world a better place? I am consciously trying to make this world a better place in every moment, through everything that I do. It is almost a childlike, like an innocent desire to just, I want to leave this world a better place. And so I honestly could just care less. I take input seriously, but when it's input from people I care about, input from you guys, input from my family and friends, input from my teachers, that I take religiously seriously. And I can get wounded, you know what I mean? Because I really do want to do a good job. And if someone I respect tells me I didn't like that, it doesn't happen very often. In fact, I don't remember the last time I did something where, like, universally people were like, eh. But bits and pieces of it, you know what I mean? So I deal with haters by honestly not caring, because they don't know me. I mean, if they know you, it's different. But if they don't know you, you should pay about -2 seconds worth of attention to that. And even if they kind of know you and don't fully know you, I still don't pay attention to it. And sometimes when people are shitty, I realize they definitely didn't know me and don't want to know me. And so I'm going to give them -2 seconds of attention. Remember, energy flows where attention goes, and what you pay attention to is going to magnify in your brain, in your energy field, everything else. If I spent my time worrying about haters, that's all I would do. Like, honestly. I had somebody write in, and they were like, they were critical of something. I don't remember what it was, like an astrological post or something. And they were like, but I can help you. And for the low price of $69.99, I can do this or that. And I thought, oh my goodness, like, if people are so people-y. Like, it had nothing to do with me. They were trying to sell a service. It's just like, oh, it's disgusting. But then I get up in the morning and I'm like, I have thousands of people in my community who are just beautiful souls who are really working hard to change their lives in diligent ways, and that's why I'm here, and that's where my energy and focus goes. This life is long and this life is not. And as we head into July, August, September, I'm going to be pushing you a little bit harder to make some choices about how you spend your time, about your thought process, about your inner monologue. And I will tell you that most of the time I live with some pretty rosy glasses on by choice. And some people could look at that and say, well, you know, you have rosy glasses on, or you stick your head in the sand or whatever. I think for me, especially having health challenges, I think I have a right to be happy. And I don't want to defer that. Like, I want to be happy now. I don't want to look back and say, oh my God, Athena, you should have just really enjoyed that more than you did. Like, if I ever had that thought, that would devastate me. I don't want to have that regret. I don't want to look back 20 years from now and thinking to myself, I could have really enjoyed that more. I was so worried about this, or so focused on that, or listening to those people, or whatever. And so fast forward 20 years from now and ask yourself what conversation you don't want to have with yourself. You should have enjoyed it more. You should have relaxed more. You should have laughed more. It wasn't as bad as you thought. You had so much more to offer. But you're out of time. 20 years, 40 years, 60 years, whatever it is, right? No, we don't roll like that. And so I want you to begin today to live the life that your 20-year forward self, your 40-year forward self will be proud of you for. I do know that a lot of us make excuses and stay small because it's easier, subconsciously. It's easier to stay small. So I want you to be kind of a big girl or a big boy with yourself and recognize where you are consciously sabotaging yourself, because your life might get more complicated if you didn't. But complicated isn't bad. My life is very complicated because of Sage Goddess. It's also exquisitely beautiful because if I wanted just the beauty without the complication, I wouldn't be able to have that. Right? I work very hard all the time. And so I'm constantly like, are you guys getting enough? Are the kids getting enough? Is Dave getting enough? Is my team getting enough? Are my parents getting enough? And of course, nobody's ever getting enough. You know what I mean? Like, I could always be doing better, but at least I'm consciously asking. And so I want you to recognize, like, maybe there's some benefits to the way you're living now. Maybe it's serving you in some way, even if you don't like it. These are the tricky conversations that you have to have in order to shift, because the shifting has to come from a very, very deep place of truth with you. I'm not talking about anybody else. This is you, between you and you. It's an immense thing. I have a friend who's an artist, and she, I don't know her very, very well, but a little bit. And she decided to go full force and re-engage her art, and it started taking off. And I had commissioned her to do a couple things, and she eventually landed a contract with Kirkland at Whole Foods, very lucrative contract. So she was able to retire from all of her freelance projects, which is beautiful. And I think of her sometimes because it's like, what if she hadn't like refocused and gotten back in and started to really, you know what I mean? Like, it's changed her whole life. I don't know what her thought process was around it, if there was fear or hesitation or whatever. but I'm glad she reconnected with, and maybe it was a lot of the freelancing that inspired her. Like those of you who are artists, like that's something to consider, right? Let the world see who you are. I think you're really beautiful. And I will leave you with that. So have a beautiful weekend, you guys. Take one step forward this weekend in your life. Just one. Just one. It all begins there. It's okay if you take 2 steps backward after that, because then you'll take another step forward and eventually you'll make progress. I see you, and I'll see you soon.